And thank you for joining me today. I'm Penny Meckley Porter. I live here in Erie, PA, the owner and founder of Thrive Therapy Space. And today we are going to talk about the connection between behaviors, thoughts, and emotions. So, as you know, this is a long series of discussions about mindfulness and mindfulness practices. And so we have some very sophisticated technology today that I'm going to be using. That is a piece of paper. Because Facebook keeps changing how they do things, and so I'm afraid to try to bring up something and share my screen. So anyway, today we're going to talk about this. It's called the cognitive triangle. And you see at the top, obviously, thoughts, actions, feelings. I may refer to the actions as behaviors. You also see that there's a double arrow, right? And so it goes, both ways in between each one, right? And so we're just going to talk about the connection between each of those things. And then even about how you can become maybe more aware in your own life about the connection between thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So let's start. I think what we'll do is we're going to start with a brief mindfulness exercise and meditation, get you kind of centered for today. And then we'll have you think about a recent difficult experience and just kind of, bring your awareness to it. Then we'll wrap up that little mindfulness exercise and we'll go more into depth about the connections between the thoughts, actions, and feelings. Okay? So let's start by having you sit comfortably in your chair and close your eyes. And bring your awareness to your breath. Wherever you like to bring your awareness to, perhaps to your chest cavity, the expansion and contraction of your chest cavity. Perhaps you bring your awareness to your breath by noticing at your nose the inhale and the exhale, the sound or the feeling. So allow the chair to support you so that you kind of relax into the chair. And then bring your breath again, bring your awareness again to your breath. You don't need to change your breath. But oftentimes as you practice this, when you do bring your awareness to your breath will automatically start to calm down and deepen over time. Please bring your awareness now to a difficult situation that you encountered recently. Bring the situation into your awareness. There were some things that happened. There was a way that you felt. There might have been some things that you were thinking. And then there were probably some actions that you took. The actions could have been outward actions, saying something to somebody or doing something, taking some action. It could have been a different kind of action, like withdrawing. So you don't have to figure it out right now. You're just bringing your awareness as fully as you can right now to the situation that happened recently. As your awareness is there, keep breathing or observing the situation right now. You might feel some of the emotions you felt then. But as always, keep breathing. Good, okay, so let's wrap up this little exercise. I'll have you open your eyes and focus back on what I might be teaching you here. So as we proceed today, I'm pretty much inviting you to use your mindfulness practices, right? And so your self-awareness to, as I'm describing maybe different situations that happened with me, I'm inviting you to use your own self-awareness to see kind of what resonates with you. There might be some similarities to how I behave in a situation with how you behave in a situation. But even if there aren't similarities, I'm inviting you to just take a deeper look at what goes on with you when you encounter a difficult situation. I'll give you an example. I'll start with an example. That kind of makes me laugh. But anyway, let's say I'm in an argument with my husband. And I don't know, I'm just really, really angry with my husband. I might have a thought that he is the biggest idiot in the world. And so that thought, we could kind of guess how that thought might impact me, right? The thought that he's the biggest idiot in the world. A feeling, I don't know, it might increase my anger. It might make me sad. And then there's an action that I could take. If I'm completely unaware of the connection between all of this, I might kind of go ahead and take that action and tell him that I think he is the biggest idiot in the world. But if I've been having a mindfulness practice for a while, I might be able to recognize that maybe I'm really angry right now, and that when I am really angry, I feel kind of on the offensive. And when I am really angry, I feel really judgmental. This is very true. When I'm really angry, I feel really judgmental. And I might have some history of being really angry. And I can recognize that when I'm really angry, my thoughts often don't represent how I feel when I'm not really angry. And so all of that self-awareness can perhaps keep me from telling my husband that I think he's the biggest idiot in the world. So that's just a funny example. I wonder about your example. There will have been some things that happened in your example. And I wonder, it's hard to know where to start on this. Let's see. I wonder, in your example, what were you feeling? Perhaps upset, sad, angry, overwhelmed, surprised, or many other emotions. So just kind of being open to that awareness of how you were feeling as things were happening. It's quite possible and probable that you're having many feelings at once. And sometimes one feeling just boom, 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 boom triggers off other feelings. So I'd like you not to judge yourself for whatever your feelings were. Let's bring you now to your thoughts. What thoughts were you having as this situation happened? You could have been having so many thoughts. It's particularly helpful to look for the familiar and very routine thoughts. Things like, here we go again, there it goes, or I can't do this, no, I can't do this, or I shouldn't have, I should have, it's all my fault. There are often really routine thoughts that we have. Often they're kinds of projective thoughts, or we're projecting on other people. That person did that because of this. So let's not get lost in the thoughts. Just bring your awareness to the thoughts. Again, I'd like you to not shame yourself for your thoughts. We often have thoughts that can kind of like horrify us. I had a client at one point who talked about having a really difficult student, and she had some thoughts about, wishing he just wasn't in his class, or he'd get sick and be home for a month or whatever. And she felt really bad about those thoughts. We talked together about whether she acted on those thoughts, and she said, oh no, I treat him every single day. I treat him just the way I treat the other kids. I make a point of treating him just the way I treat the other kids. And so in my mind, our behaviors are important, even if we have thoughts that make us uncomfortable or that we wish we didn't have. Our minds just spew out thoughts all the time, so we don't have to be ashamed if we have a thought about, if we have what we consider to be a difficult thought. So that's thoughts, and then I'd like to look at behaviors. So here we go, same chart. Actions, behaviors. What actions did you take when you had this difficult situation recently? There could be some actions that you took, some things that you did. Some people lash out, some people yell and scream. I'm assuming anger here. There could be actions that you didn't take. Perhaps you noticed that you wanted to yell and scream, but you didn't. Maybe you just kind of withdrew. Maybe you slammed your book down on a table. There could have been a zillion different actions you took. Good, so now you're kind of aware of different actions, perhaps that you took or didn't take. But so now that you've kind of like looked at this example, let's really think about how do these things interplay with each other. And I'll do another example. this was an example from my life from a few years ago. I had a daughter who was leaving to travel for about a year. And first, for some reason, I don't know, I just had my awareness in the very moment when this thing happened. My awareness was really on my emotions, and it's often not. I can think about things afterwards, but in the moment, I'm not often aware of my emotions and how they happen. Boom, 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 boom. But in this one example, for some reason, I was very self-aware for these moments. So I'll tell you the story. That is, my daughter was going to leave to travel. I was feeling sad already because I was going to miss her. I was also fearful because she was going to go travel alone, and I was somewhat fearful about that. And so she was going to leave in about a week, I guess. And this was one of her last days at home. And we had met her at where she was working. She'd stayed late just so that she was a server right then. She'd stayed late so that she could serve us, and she sat at our table with us. And it was really quite lovely. We had some really lovely time together. And then the next day we were going to leave to go to a family wedding. So we were going to get quite a bit of time together for the family wedding, be in the car together for a day, a lot of family time together. So it was really going to be a nice way to spend some time with her right before she left on this trip. Well, so keep in mind that she had stayed late at her job just to see us. She'd spent quite a bit of time with us. It was really nice. So later on in the day, I'm watching TV. And my daughter comes in. She has a new friend, somebody I hadn't met before. She comes in and she says, I'm going out tonight into town, and we're going to go to a couple of bars and stuff like that. And you know what happened in my mind right away, or in my emotions right away? I remember feeling jealous that she was going to spend time with this person. I remember feeling kind of that sense that it's not right that she would spend time with someone who she just met. Maybe a little bit of that sense of, unfairness that she would go and spend time with someone she just met. I had a sense of rejection, as if she was rejecting me and spending time with me, even though she just spent time with me. A sense of rejection, a sense of sadness. All of these things happened all at once. And I didn't choose to take action. I said, okay, have fun, to her and to her new friend. And then she was off on her way. But it's kind of interesting how so many things can happen at once. And we can feel that way, so my feelings were definitely valid. But when I looked at my feelings in view of the situation that had just happened, like, she just spent a lot of time with us and enjoyed spending time with us. We were going to get a whole, weekend together. Then really I'm glad I noticed my emotions, and I'm glad I was able to kind of evaluate them compared to the reality of the situation, right? So me feeling jealous, that was true. Me feeling rejected, that was completely not true, because she hadn't rejected us. And so I didn't end up taking action. But you could see if I had taken action, let's see, I could have taken a passive-aggressive action, like, oh, I see, you don't really want to spend time with me. You'd rather spend time with people you hardly even know. I could have said something like that, kind of passive-aggressive. I could have gotten angry and lashed out at her for some reason, even if it seemed like it was unrelated to that. And I guess as I was talking about that, I'm talking about the emotions that I had, but then also you're kind of getting an idea of what the thoughts were too. Anyway, that's just kind of dissecting one specific situation. One more story about this, and then we'll do a meditation. That is, I was involved in a group, kind of a group therapy type thing at one point. And there was a woman in the group, and she talked about how every day she ended up in the kitchen eating in the evening. And she was trying to focus on her weight, and she's trying not to gain weight and trying to lose weight. And she was indeed frustrated with herself for ending up in the kitchen every evening eating. She didn't want to be eating in the kitchen every evening. And before she was very mindful, she had expressed this, and then this was a group and we practiced mindfulness and stuff. And later on, I think it was maybe a month later, she came back in And she talked about how she would be sitting in her living room watching TV, and then she'd have a thought come to her about her mother. And her mother had passed relatively recently, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago. She'd have a thought about her mother, and then she'd have a sense of sadness and loss, like even in her body, she was aware of that. She had a sense of sadness and loss. And that's when she got up to go to the kitchen to eat. Because oftentimes eating does, in some ways, serve that function in our lives. It tries to hide that sense of, it might keep us busy and away from that sense of sadness and loss. Or it could try to be some kind of an attempt to fill that sadness and loss. But you can see, there she was sitting there, watching TV. She had a thought about her mother. She had a deep feeling of sadness, loss, emptiness, I remember her saying. And then her action was to get up and go eat. And then that action made her feel frustrated with herself, made her say some negative things to herself, and made her go into shame. And then the shame obviously could make her take certain actions. One other thing about this that I did want to express today is this idea that in the middle of all of this, so here's the thoughts, actions, and feelings. In the middle, so they've got a little triangle in here. I think here in the middle, really in the middle, somewhere is our inner wisdom. I'm not sure how to write it on here, so I'll just write inner wisdom and wise mind. You know that way that we can have sometimes of knowing something about ourselves? Inner wisdom and wise mind. Or knowing how we want to proceed in a certain situation. Or when I was a kid, I kind of knew I loved the Peace Corps. I eventually ended up joining the Peace Corps. That was my inner wisdom and my wise mind that told me what I wanted to do. Accessing our inner wisdom and our wise mind is a lot easier when our mind is calmer. And that's a big part of why I'm teaching you mindfulness. Because in part, it can help us calm our mind. In part, it makes us more aware of our mind. And indeed, when our feelings are really big, let's say I'm feeling super anxious. Where's feelings? Right here. Oh, this is all reversed. I'm going to do it like this. Let's say I'm feeling super anxious. When I'm super anxious, it's super big. In my awareness of my inner wisdom and my wise mind, it's hard to tune into my inner wisdom and my wise mind. It's like, where's my inner wisdom and my wise mind? Do I have an inner wisdom and a wise mind? But if my anxiety is too big, if my anger is too big, when my emotions are really big, or my thoughts are really insistent, it can be difficult to tune into my wise mind. So I'd like to invite you to close your eyes once again. Take a couple of deep breaths, deeper on the in-breath, deeper on the out-breath. Bring your awareness back to this situation that you had recently. Bring your awareness back, allowing yourself to feel the situation in your body, to feel the emotions that you felt then, without shaming yourself. Bring your awareness to the thoughts that you may have been having then. And then bring your awareness to your behaviors, your actions, what you did do, what you didn't do, what you wanted to do. When my daughter was going to leave to travel alone, part of me was so excited, and part of me wanted to keep her home and even to kind of pull her towards me like I would have when she was 2 or 3 and keep her right by my side. Such conflicting things to be happening all at the same time. Perhaps you're noticing how many emotions, how many thoughts you had in this situation recent. Again, reminding you not to shame yourself. We have many opportunities to learn about ourselves and others, about areas where we feel successful, about areas where we feel we'd like to make an improvement. But the shaming doesn't actually help. Why did I say it with that lilt at the end? I want to say it more firmly. The shaming actually doesn't help. It really doesn't. Again, one more deep breath. I apologize for going over our 25 minutes today. Please open your eyes. I invite you to join me again next week at the Jefferson Educational Society live Facebook feed at noon on Friday. If you'd like to see any of my other mindfulness talks, you can find them at the Jefferson Educational Society website, at their Facebook, or at the Jefferson Educational Society YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you next week.